यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी माधव कुंज बिहारी जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्रीधरस्य श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस लभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की ISKCON विविध संस्थापक आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य ष्टोदरस्य श्रीमद् डिवाइन ग्रेस भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्रील हरदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड श्री गिरि गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की गंगा माई की जमुना माई की भक्ति देवी कृष्ण भक्ति प्रदायिनी श्रीमती तुलसी महारानी की कलियुग पावन हरे नाम संकीर्तन की हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की शिला प्रभुपाद ट्रांसलेशन बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की ताई गौर प्रेमानंदी ऑल ग्लोरीज टू असेंबल डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू असेंबल डिवोटीज ऑल ग्लोरीज टू श्री गुरु एंड श्री गौरांगा। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। रीडिंग फ्रॉम ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम कैंटो 10 चैप्टर 54 द मैरिज ऑफ कृष्णा एंड रुक्मिणी टेक्स्ट 47 janmādayas tu dehasya vikriyā nātmanaḥ kvacit kalānām iva naivendor mṛtiḥ asya kuhūr iva janmādayas tu dehasya vikriyā nātmanaḥ kvacit kalānām iva naivendor mṛtir asya kuhūr iva janmādayas tu dehasya vikriyā nātmanaḥ kvacit kalānām iva naivendor mṛtir asya kuhūr iva janmādayas tu dehasya vikriyā nātmanaḥ kvacit kalānām iva naivendor mṛtiḥ asya kuhūr iva। Mataji's. Janmādayas, birth and so on. Tu, but, dehasya, of the body. Vikriyāḥ, transformations. Not. ātmanaḥ, of the self. Kvacit, ever. Kalānām, of the faces. Iva, as. Not. Eva, indeed. Indoḥ, of the moon. mṛtiḥ, the death. He, indeed. Asya, of it. Kuhūr, the new moon day. Iva, as. Translation and purport by disciples of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Birth and other transformations are undergone by the body, but never by the self. Just as change occurs for the moon's phases, but never for the moon, though the new moon day may be called the moon's death. Purport. Lord Balarāma here explains how the conditioned souls identify with the body and how this identification should be given up. Certainly, every ordinary person considers himself or herself young, middle-aged or old, healthy or sick. But such identification is an illusion, just as the waxing and waning of the moon is an illusion. When we identify ourselves with the material body, we lose our power to understand the soul. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki. So, this is a section where Lord Balarāma ji is trying to inspire Rukmini Devi with some philosophy. Rukmini is in great distress because of how Rukmi has been dealt with. So, Nehayat karma dharmaya na biragaya kalpate na tirthapada sevaya jivan api mṛtopisa. Mother Devahuti, while expressing her heart's desires to Kardam Muni, she says, if one's karma does not lead to dharma, one's dharma does not lead to vairagya, and one's vairagya does not lead to bhakti, then all of our efforts in human form of life are waste. And so she says, Sayam bhagavatanunam vanchito mayaya dridham yattat vimuktidam prapya namumuksheya bandhanat. She says, all of us receive opportunities. One who doesn't get any opportunities for practicing bhakti is unfortunate. But one who gets opportunities to practice bhakti and then loses it, he is most unfortunate. And she says, I am in that category, that I was the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu. I got the opportunity to have all these wonderful lessons of bhakti in my family. I got Kardam Muni, a great devotee, as my husband. But in spite of all of that, all of these devotional opportunities which I got, I used for my material advancement. And therefore, the word Prabhupada uses to translate vanchito mayaya dridham. Dridham means solidly. Vanchita means cheated. So Prabhupada gives the translation for this, that Devahuti is saying, I have been solidly cheated by Maya. Solidly cheated means when one has an opportunity to practice Krishna consciousness, to absorb oneself in Krishna consciousness. And Krishna consciousness basically means three things: intensity in sadhana, consistency in seva, and sensitivity in dealings with the devotees. And if we lose on all of these three, then we are losing the opportunity. And therefore, she says, I am solidly cheated by Maya. Because this Krishna consciousness association and sangha of the devotees is the opportunity to overcome, as it is described in this verse by Balarāma, birth, old age, disease and death once and for all. And therefore, when Nalakuvar and Manigriv also, they are engrossed in sense gratification. Rudrasya anucharau bhutva sudriptau dhanadātmajau kailasya upavane vanyo mandakinyo madotkatau. So Nalakuvar and Manigriv also had fantastic opportunities. First of all, they were associates of Rudra. Second, they were sons of Kubera, great devotee. Sudriptau dhanadātmajau. Third, they had residence in Kailas, which is very, very pure and holy place. And fourth, they were in Mandakini Ganga, which is considered to be the place for purifying. Right? But in spite of having all of these opportunities, what were they engaged in? Varunim madiram pitva mada ghornita lochanam strijane anugayadbhir cheratu pushpite vane. Although they had all these wonderful positive opportunities for spiritual advancement, but they were intoxicated with both wine and lust. And therefore, they were in a most unfortunate condition. So the tendency of the conditioned soul is always to be intoxicated by material conditioning and get absorbed in sense gratification and forget the golden opportunity to overcome the influence of birth, old age, disease and death. And therefore that tendency is always there, and one can only overcome that tendency by the strong association of devotees, where we open our hearts for loving exchanges with the devotees. And therefore, when Prabhupada was in the West Coast, the devotees came and said that there is a night club which opens at 9 o'clock at night and goes on till 4 or 5 in the morning. It's a great opportunity for book distribution. So please give us blessings that we go there and distribute books. Prabhupada said, go there, but make sure you come back also. Because one should not feel so confident that one can overcome any challenge of material energy. And therefore, when Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu meets Srila Ramananda Rai, he says, Amanistarete tomar iha agaman param dayalu tumi patita pavan. My dear Lord, you have arrived here to give me your divine association and empower me. Only by association of devotees one can overcome the weakness of the heart, Hriday Daurbalyam. Hriday Daurbalyam means I know what is to be done, still I am unable to apply that, and therefore have a tendency to keep slipping from the path of devotional service. And therefore, he says, what exactly is the meaning of patita pavan? Veda nishtha madhye ardheka veda mukhe mane veda nishiddha papa kore dharma nahi gane. When someone understands that the shastric expectation is this, Veda nishtha madhye ardheka veda mukhe mane. The Vedas expect us to behave like this. One knows that. The Vedic literatures have this expectation, this standard. But Veda nishiddha papa kore dharma nahi gane. But still, one is unable to control one's habits and dealings. And Veda nishiddha papa kore, and engages in sense gratification opposed to the Vedic standard. That person becomes patita. And therefore, the great souls, they are always traveling continuously to give their association so that the conditioned souls develop the strength to resist the temptations of this world. I was doing a satsang program and I was doing kirtan. And one gentleman was sitting right in front. And I was telling everybody, you clap your hands in kirtan loudly. So everybody was clapping enthusiastically, and this person sitting there was just having his eyes closed but not clapping only. He was just tapping his fingers. So I was looking at him and saying, clap loudly, but he looked at me but there was no response. So sometimes you feel like, hey, why is he not, getting into the mood? So after the lecture, prasadam was over, and when I was going out of the program, I saw this person standing in one corner. The same person who could not clap during kirtan, he had tobacco in his fingers and he was clapping loudly. So I walked up to him and said that during kirtan you were not able to clap, but now you are clapping so enthusiastically when there is tobacco in your hand. He said, this is not tobacco. I said, what is it? He said, it's Sanjeevani Booty. This is what Hanumanji brought to offer to Lakshman, and by smelling this, Lakshman got up. So I said, who told you? He said, my grandfather. When he would tell me Ramayana stories, he would eat in the middle and I would ask him, what is this? That's what he told me. So rationalization is use of intelligence in the service of false ego. And therefore, when Narad Muni comes and looks at Nalkuber and Manigriv, Tau drishtva madira mattau strimadandau suratmajau tayor anugraharthaya shapam dasyam idam jagu. Out of his great anugraha, mercy, Narad Muni gives them a curse which elevates them to Gokul and brings them and gives them an opportunity to see Lord Krishna's pastimes. So therefore, all of us get opportunities. And when the opportunities come, it is all a matter of our consciousness. Because here is Rukmini and her brother Rukmi. Both have the opportunity to associate with Krishna. Rukmini is taking that opportunity to associate with Krishna favorably, and Rukmi has the opportunity to associate with both Krishna and Balarāma, but is opposing and fighting against them because his heart is closed. And therefore, association is not a matter of being physically with the devotees, but association is a matter of opening our hearts to allow the loving exchanges to happen. And therefore, aparadha literally means apaghata radha, which means it is the principle of diminishing satisfaction. Radha means satisfaction, aparadha means when the satisfaction goes on diminishing. When does satisfaction go on diminishing? When we are unable to please Krishna and his devotees, and because of keeping our hearts closed and because of not allowing that free flow of exchange of emotions between devotees, the heart becomes closed. And as a result, when the emotions do not flow, then ultimately Krishna takes away the taste. And therefore, we may practice process of bhakti, but the satisfaction goes on diminishing. And so finally one starts looking for pleasure in sense gratification and in the old habits. And therefore, this principle of how to overcome aparadha or offense begins by always being respectful to devotees from within the heart. So many times it is devotees only who bring us to Krishna consciousness. Devotees are the ones who pull us to Krishna consciousness. And then when we start regularly interacting with devotees, many times we become frustrated in those interactions, we become angry with the devotees, and it is the devotees only who push us away from association internally, because we become filled with all kinds of negativities towards such devotees. And therefore, this is a very important principle, how we negotiate this very delicate balance of associating with devotees with respect, with sensitivity, with feeling, year after year, in spite of various kinds of challenges and ups and downs. And so here, when Srila Prabhupada, he was, sitting and talking to a devotee, and this devotee came up and he was sharing all his difficulties and all his challenges. And the devotees who were sitting next to Prabhupada were shocked that how this devotee was very openly sharing all of his problems and challenges, difficulty in controlling senses. And then this devotee started explaining in so much detail how he is breaking the regulative principles that many of the devotees got up and walked away, thinking, oh, if we sit here, we are getting ideas. Our mind is getting disturbed. So finally, Srila Prabhupada was alone and only just one other devotee was there. And this devotee was sobbing and crying, and finally he stopped speaking. So Srila Prabhupada turned to this other devotee who was just left behind, and Prabhupada turned to this struggling devotee and said, just see how this sincere soul is struggling for Krishna. And that was Srila Prabhupada's understanding. Prabhupada could see that yes, a person may have many choices, but if they have come to Krishna consciousness, they have come with a sincere desire to practice the process, and there may be difficulties and challenges, but it is only the association of devotees which can pull them in. And therefore, as long as one has faith in that association of devotees, there is hope. But if one loses faith in that association, then the hope which we have is very highly diminished. And therefore, when someone came and said to Srila Prabhupada, I am having difference of opinion with this devotee. He is having one opinion, I am having another opinion. We are having too much of difference of opinion. Prabhupada said, that's very good. And he said, why it is good? Prabhupada said, that means Mayavad philosophy is wrong. It is not one. Everything is not one. There is difference. Right? It was Kumbh Mela, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj came running to Srila Prabhupada and he said, Srila Prabhupada, two devotees are having a huge philosophical debate. Prabhupada said, what is that? He says, Madhudvesha Prabhu, he's saying that the difference between Krishna and Balarāma is Krishna is black and Balarāma is white. Prabhupada said, he's right. So then Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, but Yamuna Devi, she's saying the difference between Krishna and Balarāma is only Krishna enjoys with Radharani, not Balramji. Prabhupada said, she's right. Tamal Krishna Maharaj got bewildered. He looked at Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, both are saying two different things. How can both be right? Prabhupada said, you are right. And then he looked at Prabhupada and said, Srila Prabhupada, what's the right answer? Prabhupada said, you decide. And then Prabhupada said, people call me Prabhupada, but treat me like problem pad. So, differences and difficulties and challenges will always be there. But to the extent we are able to understand that the process of Krishna consciousness is to help us elevate our consciousness and see the bigger picture. At every moment when we are challenged, we are expected to rise up, increase our consciousness, heighten our consciousness, elevate our consciousness. Because a skyscraper building, 40-story building will remain. If I stand in front of a 40-story building, the size of the 40-story building is enormous. It's overwhelming. It's overpowering. And for a 5 to 6 foot person, the 40-story building is too powerful. So sometimes challenges and problems appear to be overwhelming like this 40-story building. And we may think, how do I overcome this? It appears too intimidating and one gets helpless. But even though one may become helpless, Krishna consciousness is the process which teaches and inspires helpless souls not to become hopeless. And that's the whole idea of Krishna consciousness. Because hope is generated through the consciousness. And so by the process of Krishna consciousness, one is elevated. And when one looks at the same 40-story building from a window seat of a flight which is 10,000 feet in height from the skies. When the flight is up in the air and you look down at the building, the same building looks very small. The size of the building has not reduced, but the perspective from where we are looking at that building has changed. And therefore, Krishna consciousness is not about tackling the problem, but it is about adjusting the perspectives. Because today, when people get frustrated and depressed, they pop the pill. But the Vedic wisdom was not about popping the pill, it was about adjusting the perspective. And that's what Srila Prabhupada focused on, spending sleepless nights giving details in his Bhaktivedanta purports, so that the souls can get an understanding that when we are faced with intimidating challenges and difficulties, we have the opportunity to adjust and change the perspective and understand that yes, I may be frustrated with this devotee, I may be angry with this devotee, I may have conflicts with this devotee, but it's ultimately the devotee who has inspired me to come to Krishna consciousness. And therefore, I should not be suicidal in my decision making in Krishna consciousness, because the very devotees who give us hope, who bring us closer to Krishna, should not become the cause of pushing us away from Krishna. Janasya krishnat vimukhasya daivat adharmashilasya sudukhitasya anugrahayaiva charanti nunam bhutani bhavyani janardanasya. So, Vidura, he tells Maitreya Rishi that conditioned souls have their faces turned away from Krishna. Vimukhasya daivat adharmashilasya sudukhitasya, and they are very distressed because of not following the proper principles of dharma. Anugrahayaiva, out of great compassion upon them. Charanti nonam bhutani bhavyani, the large-hearted devotees are traveling across the world, inspiring them in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, when we remain inspired in Krishna consciousness, then we are able to focus on our main problem, which is overcoming birth, old age, disease, birth, disease, old age, and death. So we have example of Maharaj Parikshit, who was within the womb of his mother. And the Brahmastra came, and within the womb of the mother, he saw Krishna directly. He was not even born, pre-birth. Angushtam matram amalam spurat puratamaulinam opibya darshanam shyamam taditavasa samachyutam. He saw Krishna the size of a small thumb, having a bluish colored complexion, wearing yellowish colored clothes, which were effulgent like lightning. And then, when Parikshit Maharaj saw that he has been saved by this beautiful personality, he was searching for that personality, and therefore his name became Parikshit. And so his name became Tasmat Namna Vishnurata iti loke bhavishyati nasandeho mahabhaga mahabhagavato mahan. His name became Tasmat Namna Vishnurata. Vishnurata means one who was protected by Lord Vishnu. Nasandeho mahabhaga mahabhagavato. He was a Mahabhagavat, he was extremely fortunate. So, Maharaj Parikshit got the glimpse of Krishna consciousness at birth, as also Prahlad Maharaj. He heard the Srimad Bhagavatam in the womb of his mother. And when Narsingadev gives his darshan to Prahlad, at that time he asks, ask for a boon. And Prahlad Maharaj, he just says, Evam janam nipatitam prabhavahi kupe kama bhikama manuya prapatan prasangat kritvatmasat surarshina bhagavan grihita soham katham nu visrije tava bhritya sevam. My dear Lord, people are aspiring for your darshan. I have your darshan, but I aspire for the service of that great personality, Shripad Narad Muni. If he had not appeared in my life and spoken the Srimad Bhagavatam to my mother, and I had not heard it in the womb of my mother, I would be following in the footsteps of other demoniac personalities in my family and would have landed up in hell. You have changed the direction of my life through the great devotee Narada Muni. He has appeared in my life, and so I am even aware of Krishna consciousness. And so Narsingadev says, okay, you want to serve Shripad Narada Muni, find any other opportunity or any other service you want, any other benediction you want, and Prahlad Maharaj says, let my father, Hiranyakashipu, he be delivered. And Nrsimhadev says, Trisaptibi pita puta pitribi sahate naga. Prahlad, you have been practicing bhakti even from your birth. And you are such a pure devotee that because of your pure devotion, not only your father, 21 generations will be liberated. And I remember when I joined Krishna consciousness, my family was very disturbed. And they never told anybody that I have joined ISKCON. When somebody would ask them, what is your son doing? They would say, he is in Mumbai. And then they would say, what is he doing? He is in Mumbai. And so, one time, one of my cousins was watching the television, and that time Atma serial was coming on the TV on Sony in 98, 97. So he saw that and he thought he recognized the face, but the hairstyle was different. So he called my mother and confirmed, and she said, yeah, it is him only. And he said, you never told us. Arey, we have so many cousins, at least one person is doing something sensible. So why don't we have a Gita lecture for all of us, the family members? I was very, very much enlivened that the family wants to have a Gita lecture. So I took another devotee with me, because you can't give lecture in your own family. So I took one of my other colleagues in Chennai, and we had like 100 people satsang program, all my cousins and uncles and aunts and everybody. And this devotee, he quoted this verse of Nrsimhadev. And he pointed to me and said, because he has become a devotee and dedicated his life, all of you sitting here will go to Vaikuntha, and 21 generations will go to Vaikuntha. And after the lecture, one cousin of mine came up to me and said, continue chanting. Don't give up. And if you have any problem, let me know. So Prahlad Maharaj was practicing right from his birth. Parikshit Maharaj was practicing right from his birth. And then, when we go through disease, someone like Sanatan Goswami, after hearing the entire Sanatan Shiksha from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, his skin experienced some disease because of drinking contaminated water. And he was contemplating suicide in Jagannath Puri. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at him and he said that dehatyagadi, if by giving your life you could attain Krishna, I would give up my life many, many times. But you can't attain Krishna by giving up your life, by committing suicide. And therefore Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu looked at Sanatan and says, Bhajanera madhya sreshta navavida bhakti Krishna prema Krishna dite dhore mahashakti. The way to attain Krishna is through bhajan, and through bhajan, navavida bhakti is the process. And out of all the 9 processes, which is the best? Tara madhya sarva sreshta nama sankirtan niraparāda nama loile pai premadhan. To chant the holy names offenselessly is the highest. And therefore, Mayadasi prema mage ithe ki vismay sadhu kripa nama bina prema na janmay. When Mayadevi is trying to enchant Thakur Haridas, she ultimately surrenders to the conviction, to the devotion which Thakur Haridas has for the holy name. And so this verse comes where Maya Devi becomes Dasi of Thakur Haridas. And she starts begging for prema. Prema mage. Ithe ki vismay. Is there anything astonishing that Maya Devi starts begging for prema from Thakur Haridas? Why? Sadhu kripa nama bina prema na janmay. Prem can never arise without these 2 things. Without the kripa of the sadhus, the grace of the Vaishnavas, and nama, and the grace of the holy name. Without the grace of the sadhu and the holy name, prema can never arise. And therefore, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he looks at Sanatan Goswami and he says, you are thinking that your life is useless and hopeless because of this diseased condition, but you have no idea what all I have thought for you as a mission in future. And then he says, Krishna Bhakti Krishna Prema Seva Pravartan Lupta Tirtha Uddhara Ar Vairagya Shikshan. I want you to reveal how to attain Krishna Prema. I want you to establish beautiful temples in Braj Bhumi. I want you to establish the lost holy places by excavating them. And I want you to give what are the tenets for the renounced order of life in Vrindavan. I want you to do all of these things. All of this was a mission for me, but because my mother told me not to leave Puri, so I have to depend on you, Srila Sanatan. So please, do not become hopeless. And so disease is a condition which can make even someone of the caliber of Sanatan Goswami, after hearing the entire philosophy from Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, just recently, still he became hopeless. That's the power of disease, it can make us hopeless. But Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is revealing that philosophy is all powerful, but still that philosophy will really connect within our heart when there is a touch of devotee care. So Sanatan Goswami was the supremost scholar, but there was a vulnerable moment in his life where he had to hear the same philosophy from some other devotee. We may be speaking philosophy whole life, but there are moments where we need to hear that philosophy from someone. We need that touch of the devotees, and then only it has its impact. And therefore Lord Chaitanya revealed that care is so important. So birth, disease, and then in old age, Dhritarashtra, he was practically, in a situation where all his family was destroyed, and he was living like a kept dog in Yudhishthira Maharaj's palace. And Vidura comes back all the way just to deliver Dhritarashtra. Bhavat vida bhagavatas tirtha bhuta swayam vibho tirthi kurvanti tirthani swa antasthena gadamrita. Krishna is within the heart of the devotees, and Prabhupada gives the example, electricity is everywhere, still you need an electric bulb to generate light. So God is everywhere, still he resides in the devotee's heart and becomes a source of illumination. So Vidura comes and he looks at Dhritarashtra and chastises him and says, Andha puraiva badhiro manda pragyam sasampratan. You were always blind. Now you have become deaf also. Vishirnadanta mandagni, all your teeth have fallen. You cannot digest your food. And then when you are coughing, it appears that so many ragas are coming out because of your coughing. And therefore, Rajan nirgamyatam shigram pashyedam bhayamagata. You consider yourself king, you have ambition to become king, you don't realize that there is only one king, time factor. Time factor is the only king who rules everyone and everything. Therefore, just get out and take shelter of the Supreme. And therefore, a person like Dhritarashtra, who spent his entire life committing sinful activities, engaged in conspiracy against the greatest Vaishnavas, the Pandavas, still had hope in old age, where he was open to receiving the grace of the Vaishnava Vidura. And then at the moment of death, Ajamil sees the Vishnu Dutas when he chants the name of Narayan. Mriyamano harer nama grinana putro bacharitam Ajamilopi agadhama kimpuna shraddhaya grinana. In the Ajamil pastime, there are 4 conditions described in the concluding verse. Ajamil chanted the name of Narayan at the time of death intensely. Ajamil chanted not Narayan's name, his son's name. Ajamil was still breaking regulative principles till death, and Ajamil never heard the glories of the holy name ever. In spite of not having these 4 advantages, still he got saved. So just imagine if one actually chants intensely every single day, if one calls out to the Lord directly, if one practices the regulative principles, and if one regularly hears to increase one's faith in the holy name, how much more benefit one will get. And therefore Ajamil says, Kvachaham kitava papa brahmagna nirapatrapa kvacannārāyanatyeti bhagavan nama mangalam. My dear Lord, in this world, people before they associate with someone do a background check on whether this person is worth associating or not. But your holy name is so pure, so powerful, so compassionate. The holy name never does any background check on anybody. No matter however sinful one may be, the holy name agrees to come upon the tongue of such a devotee, of such a person. And Srila Jiva Goswami says, if one commits 100 offenses, one becomes distracted in chanting. When one commits 1,000 offenses, one is unable to practice the regulative principles, and one commits 10,000 offenses, the ability to chant the holy name goes away. And therefore, at the moment of death, the holy name is our greatest savior. So therefore, Balarāma in this beautiful exposition to Rukmini is explaining that real intelligence is to understand that the soul is constant and beyond the changes of the body. Just like the moon goes through phases, the body goes through birth, old age, disease and death. But even though the body may go through such changes, those who have received the association of devotees, those who have received the shastric knowledge, those who have received the right intelligence, they are able to utilize each of these phases of birth, old age, disease and death also to absorb themselves in Krishna consciousness and make their lives successful. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. So, actually, I had told Prem Prakash Prabhu to inform Dharmatma Prabhu that I have to cancel my class today because I have a flight at 12:30 from Delhi. He forgot to tell you. And then my name was announced. So I thought it is Krishna Balram's desire. So therefore I told him I'll just do the needful, and then otherwise I don't stop till 9 o'clock. So one reason I've stopped early is but since Panchagoda Prabhu raised, quick one.
When they talk about from the heart, in the heart, my heart, the feelings of the heart. What does that actually mean? I mean, in a sense that we identify, is that a sacred place where the mind is taking or expecting to have some special feeling, emotion, what the expression of from the heart, I love you.
For me, from the heart means when Panchagoda Prabhu is singing kirtan. Basically, it means that there is alignment, as they say, manassekam, vachasekam, karmassekam, mahatmana. There is alignment between thoughts, words and actions. And when Pratapruddra Maharaj sees the kirtan of Mahaprabhu and his devotees from Bengal, he says, Aiche prem, aiche nritya, aiche haridhwani, kaha nahi dekhi, aiche kaha nahi shuni. I've never heard, never seen such kirtan. And Prabhupada says, Pratapruddra Maharaj had seen hundreds and thousands of melodious shastric singers because the best were available for him. But what touched him was the devotees of Lord Chaitanya were practicing all through their life. And when they would sing the holy names, there was no hypocrisy, there was no show, it was just genuine. So, from the heart basically means perfect alignment between our intention, between our desires, and when that intention translates into action seamlessly, like the flow of honey, that's from the heart. That's my understanding. Thank you. Jai.